I caught my husband cheating 3 times. The third time, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I hired the best lawyer in the state and took $1.2 billion from him. But the money? That wasn't even the best part of my revenge. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you will change the way you think about love, betrayal, and knowing your worth. This is my story, and I promise you, it's going to be worth every single second. Welcome to Reality Stories Hub. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. They always said I married him for his money. But here's what they didn't know. I had already built my own success before I even learned his name. I'm Natasha Bennett, and this is the story of how I turned the worst betrayal of my life into the greatest victory I could have ever imagined. Before we dive into how everything unfolded, let me take you back to where it all started. 5 years ago, I was living what everyone from the outside thought was a perfect life. I was married to Daniel Crawford, one of the biggest names in real estate across the country. The man was worth billions. Our wedding photos were everywhere: magazines, websites, social media. People looked at us and saw the definition of success. A power couple, they called us. But let me tell you something important right now, something I need you to understand from the very beginning. When I met Daniel at a business conference in Los Angeles, I wasn't some young woman looking for a rich husband. I wasn't searching for someone to save me or give me a better life. I already had my own empire. I had started my own software company right from my tiny apartment when I was still in college. Just me, my old laptop, and a vision of what I could create. By the time Daniel and I locked eyes across that crowded event hall, my company was already employing over 200 people. I had contracts with some of the biggest corporations in the world. I was making millions on my own. So no, I didn't need his money. What I thought I needed was his love. Daniel had this presence about him, you know? When he walked into a room, people noticed. He had that silver hair that made him look distinguished, always dressed in suits that probably cost more than most people make in a month. But it wasn't his looks or his wealth that drew me in. It was the way he seemed genuinely interested when I talked about my business dreams. He would listen, really listen, when I explained the technology we were developing. Most men I had dated before felt threatened by my success. Daniel seemed different. He seemed impressed, excited even, by what I had accomplished. Our relationship moved fast. Really fast. Private jets to Paris for dinner. Weekends at his massive estate. Long conversations that would stretch into the early morning hours where we'd share our dreams and fears. After just 8 months, he proposed with a ring so expensive it could probably pay off someone's mortgage. The wedding was everything a woman could dream of: 300 guests, a designer dress, flowers everywhere you looked. But you know what? Even on that perfect day, I should have seen the warning signs. While I was changing into my second dress during the reception, I caught him flirting with one of my bridesmaids. And I don't mean just being friendly. I mean the kind of touching and whispering that made my stomach twist into knots. When I confronted him later that night, he brushed it off like it was nothing. "Baby, you're just being paranoid," he said. I was being nice. This is supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. And because I loved him, because I wanted so badly to believe him, I let it go. God, how I wish I hadn't. That first year of marriage was exhausting. Daniel's business empire was huge: luxury hotels, office buildings, apartment complexes in 12 different states. As his wife, I was expected to be at every charity event, every society lunch, every business dinner. I'd be on conference calls with my clients while getting my hair done for yet another party where I was supposed to smile and look pretty while making small talk with people I barely knew. My best friend and business partner, Rachel, kept warning me. "Natasha, you're losing yourself in his world," she'd say. "When was the last time you spent a whole day actually running your company?" She was right. I was trying to be 2 people at once, the perfect society wife and the successful businesswoman. I thought I could balance both. I thought love meant sacrifice. I was wrong. The first time he cheated on me, we'd been married for just 14 months. I came home early from a business trip to Chicago. My flight had been delayed, and I was tired, ready to just collapse into bed. But when I pulled up to our house, I saw his car and another car I didn't recognize, a bright red sports car parked right there in our driveway. The moment I walked through the front door, something felt off. The house was too quiet, too still. I followed a trail that I wish I had never followed. A woman's jacket on the stairs, then a blouse, then Daniel's tie leading up to our bedroom. My hands were shaking when I pushed open that bedroom door. And there he was. My husband. In our bed. With Jessica, his personal trainer. The same personal trainer I had hired for him as an anniversary gift because he said he was too busy to make it to the gym. The pain I felt in that moment, I can't even describe it to you. It wasn't just that he cheated. It was that he did it in our home. In our bed. He didn't even respect me enough to take it somewhere else. When they finally noticed me standing there, Jessica scrambled to cover herself. Daniel just looked annoyed. Annoyed. Like I was interrupting something important. Natasha, let me explain, he said. Sitting up casually like this was just a minor inconvenience. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Not in front of them. I just said, "You have 1 hour to get her out of my house," and I walked out. I sat in my car in the driveway, gripping the steering wheel so tight my hands hurt, trying to figure out if my marriage was worth saving. Trying to decide who I wanted to be in that moment. When I came back inside after that hour, Daniel was waiting for me. He had this whole speech prepared. He was sorry. It was a huge mistake. It would never, ever happen again. Jessica was going through a divorce and feeling vulnerable, and he was weak in that moment. He loved me. Only me. He would do whatever it took to earn back my trust. And you know what? The tears in his eyes looked real. The desperation in his voice made me want to comfort him instead of being angry at him. So I forgave him. I actually forgave him. We went to couples therapy twice a week for 6 months. I convinced myself that everyone makes mistakes, that marriages require hard work, that our love was strong enough to survive this rough patch. During that time, my company launched our most successful product yet. We made $15 million in the first 3 months alone. Daniel seemed so proud of me. He posted about my success on social media, called me his brilliant wife at dinner parties. But all that success in business couldn't fix the crack in my heart. That crack was still there, hidden beneath all the smiles and the therapy sessions and the promises of a better future. 2 years passed. 2 years where I thought we had moved past everything. 2 years where I believed we were stronger than ever. Then came the second betrayal. Her name was Patricia Monroe. She was one of Daniel's business associates, someone I had met at dinner parties several times. She was married with 2 kids. I thought that made her safe, that she was someone I didn't have to worry about. I found out about their affair on what started as a perfect Saturday morning. We were making breakfast together, laughing at some comedy show on TV, planning a trip to Greece. Daniel's phone was sitting on the kitchen counter when it buzzed. I glanced at it without thinking. The message preview said, "Last night was incredible. When can we do it again?" My blood went cold. I knew I shouldn't look. I knew it was wrong to go through his phone. But I couldn't stop myself. I scrolled through months of messages between them. Detailed descriptions of what they did together. Promises to leave their marriages. Hotel receipts. Photos I wish I could erase from my memory. When I confronted Daniel this time, he tried something different. Instead of apologizing and crying, he got angry at me. "You went through my phone? What kind of wife violates her husband's privacy like that?" He actually tried to make me the bad person for discovering his affair, instead of him being the bad person for having the affair in the first place. But something had changed in me during those 2 years. My company had expanded to other countries. We opened offices in London and Tokyo. I was featured on the cover of major business magazines as one of the top female entrepreneurs in the world. I had my own money, my own success, my own identity that existed completely separate from being Daniel Crawford's wife. Still, I gave him another chance. Maybe it was love. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was the part of me that didn't want to admit I had failed at marriage. We went back to therapy. He promised to end things with Patricia completely. He promised to focus on rebuilding what we had. He promised that I was the only woman he wanted. For 6 months after that, things actually seemed better. Daniel was romantic again. He surprised me with weekend trips. He sent flowers to my office. He started taking genuine interest in my work. I let myself believe that maybe we had finally turned a corner. Maybe the worst was behind us. I should have known better. I really should have. The third betrayal, the final one, I didn't discover by accident. I had become suspicious again. Too many late nights at work. Too many business trips that didn't quite make sense. Too many phone calls he took in other rooms where I couldn't hear him. This time, I hired a private investigator. I needed proof. I needed to know for sure instead of just wondering and worrying all the time. What that investigator found didn't just break my heart. It shattered something deeper inside me that I didn't even know could be broken. The private investigator's name was Helen Rodriguez, and she was thorough. When she handed me that thick envelope of evidence, she looked at me with sympathy and said, "I'm sorry for what you're about to see." I thanked her, paid her fee, and took that envelope home. I waited until I was alone before I opened it. Inside was proof of an affair with Samantha Hayes, Daniel's executive assistant. The affair had been going on for over 8 months. There were hotel receipts, photographs of them together, text messages, everything. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was what else Helen had uncovered. Daniel had been systematically hiding money from me, moving funds into offshore accounts, creating financial structures that would protect his wealth in case of divorce. The man who slept next to me every night, who told me he loved me, who promised we'd grow old together. That same man had been planning my financial destruction for months. That's when everything became crystal clear to me. Love without respect isn't love at all. It's just manipulation dressed up in nice words and expensive gifts. The day I walked into his office and caught them together wasn't actually planned. I had decided to surprise him with lunch, trying to rebuild some of the closeness we'd lost. His secretary told me he was in a meeting, but I knew Samantha was the only person on his calendar for that time slot. I told the secretary I'd just wait in his office. I found them on his leather couch. Her skirt was pushed up. His hands were all over her. They were so caught up in each other that they didn't even notice me standing there at first. I didn't leave quietly like I had the first time. I didn't cry or scream. I just stood there and watched until they finally saw me. Watched them scramble apart like teenagers caught by their parents. "We need to talk," I said to Daniel, my voice completely calm. Then I looked at Samantha and said, "I suggest you find a new job by Monday." That conversation was the end of my marriage. But it was also the beginning of my real life, the life where I finally put myself first. Daniel tried everything. He cried. He raged. He promised to change. He threatened to destroy my business. He begged on his knees. He blamed me for not being affectionate enough. He accused me of being cold and controlling. He sent his mother to talk to me. He sent his friends to talk to me. None of it worked anymore. I had finally learned to see through all his tactics and manipulations. I was done playing his game. That same afternoon, I called Jennifer Walsh, the most successful and feared divorce attorney in the state. When I walked into her office with the private investigator's report and my own documentation of everything, she smiled like someone who had just been handed an early Christmas present. "Mrs. Crawford," she said, "I think we're going to enjoy working together." The divorce proceedings were brutal. They were long. They were public. Daniel tried to paint me as a bitter, vindictive wife who was trying to ruin him out of spite. The media picked sides. Some articles called me a gold digger who was finally showing her true colors. Other articles portrayed me as a successful woman who had been betrayed and was simply fighting for what was fair. I stopped caring about what the media said. I stopped caring about what people at parties whispered about me. I only cared about one thing: justice. Jennifer earned every penny of her massive legal fees. She uncovered financial records that even Daniel's own lawyers didn't know existed. She found evidence of tax evasion. She found hidden assets all over the world. She found business dealings that were legally questionable at best. What Daniel thought would be a simple divorce where he kept most of his billions turned into a complex legal battle where every dollar he owned was examined under a microscope. During those months of legal proceedings, something unexpected started happening. Daniel's business empire began to fail. Deals that used to close easily were falling apart. Partnerships were dissolving. His carefully built empire was crumbling piece by piece. Later, I realized why. He had been relying on me more than either of us had understood. My networking skills, my understanding of technology, my business instincts. I had been quietly contributing to his success all along, and without me, he didn't know how to hold it all together. Meanwhile, my company was thriving, free from all the social obligations of being a billionaire's wife. I threw myself back into my work with a passion I had forgotten I had. We launched 3 new products. We signed contracts with major corporations across 5 continents. I was finally able to implement all those expansion plans I had been dreaming about for years, but never had time to execute. The day of the final settlement, I walked into that courthouse wearing a simple black suit. No jewelry except for a watch my father had given me before he passed away. I wanted to look like exactly what I was, a businesswoman who had built her own success and was now claiming what was rightfully hers. Jennifer had prepared me for different outcomes, but I tried not to get my hopes up too high. Divorce courts can be unpredictable, especially when one party has as much money and influence as Daniel. When the judge read the final settlement terms, I had to hold back tears. Not tears of sadness, but tears of vindication. $1.2 billion. Plus assets that included 2 of Daniel's luxury hotels, his entire art collection worth millions, and the beach house where we had spent our first anniversary. The judge was particularly harsh in his statement about the hidden assets and the systematic deception. He essentially said that Daniel had tried to defraud me, and the court wouldn't stand for it. Jennifer squeezed my hand under the table and whispered, "We did it. But here's what I want you to understand. The money wasn't the real victory. Don't get me wrong, the money was nice. The security it provided was important. But the real victory was walking out of that courtroom knowing that I had stood up for myself. That I had refused to be disrespected one more time. That I had chosen my own worth over a comfortable lie." Daniel tried to reconcile with me for months after the divorce was finalized. He sent flowers every week, expensive jewelry, handwritten letters promising that losing me had made him realize what truly mattered. He showed up at my office building. He came to my house. He attended industry events where he knew I'd be, just to try to talk to me. He even had his mother call me, crying about how he had never been the same since I left him, how he wasn't eating properly, how he was depressed, how I was the only person who could save him. And you know what I felt when I heard all of this? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not anger. Not satisfaction. Not even pity. I had finally reached that place where someone can no longer hurt you because you simply don't care enough anymore to let them in. 2 years have passed since that day in court. 2 years that have completely transformed my life in ways I never could have imagined. My company is now valued at over $800 million. We employ 1,500 people across 4 continents. Last year, I started a foundation that provides funding and mentorship for female entrepreneurs, especially women who face the same barriers I once did. Women who are told they're not enough, that they should be grateful for what they have, that they should stay quiet and accept less than they deserve. I'm also in love again. But this time, everything is different. His name is Dr. James Mitchell, and he's a pediatric surgeon. He drives a 10-year-old car and lives in a modest apartment because he donates most of his salary to medical charities that provide care for children in developing countries. He has never once asked me about my money. He has never tried to change me or make me smaller so he could feel bigger. He loves me for exactly who I am, successful, driven, ambitious, and uncompromising about my worth. With James, I never worry about where he is or who he's with. I never feel the need to check his phone or hire investigators. Because he has shown me through his actions, day after day, what real love actually looks like. It looks like respect. It looks like trust. It looks like partnership. As for Daniel, his business empire never recovered from the divorce. He lost most of his hotels in bad deals and poor investments. His reputation in the business community was damaged. His personal life became a series of failed relationships with younger and younger women who left him as soon as they found someone with more money and fewer problems. Last month, Daniel asked to meet me for coffee. Against my better judgment and against Rachel's strong advice, I agreed. Part of me was curious. Part of me wanted to see who he had become. We met at a quiet cafe downtown, far from the places where we used to be seen together. When he walked in, I barely recognized him at first. He looked so much older than I remembered. Tired in a way that expensive skin treatments and personal trainers couldn't fix. The confidence that used to radiate from him was gone, replaced by something that looked like defeat. We ordered our coffee and sat across from each other. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he began. "I've been in therapy," he said. "Real therapy this time, not just going through the motions like we did before. I've been working on understanding why I did what I did to you. To us." I listened without interrupting. "I need you to know that I never loved anyone the way I loved you," he continued, his voice cracking slightly. "I know I destroyed everything we had. I know I have no right to even be sitting here with you right now. But I wanted to tell you that losing you was the biggest mistake of my entire life. Not because of the money or the settlement. Because I lost the only woman who ever really loved me for who I was, not what I could give her." I looked at this man who had once held my heart in his hands. This man who had promised to cherish and protect me. This man who had instead chosen to break me down piece by piece, affair after affair, lie after lie. And in that moment, I felt something I didn't expect to feel. Gratitude. I was grateful that his betrayal had forced me to find my own strength. Grateful that his disrespect had taught me to demand better treatment. Grateful that his lies had shown me what genuine love actually looks like. I'm glad you've been working on yourself, I told him honestly. I'm glad you're in therapy and trying to understand your actions. I hope you're able to be a better person for whoever comes next in your life. But Daniel, what we had is over. That chapter is closed. And honestly, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I stood up, leaving my coffee barely touched. He looked up at me with tears in his eyes and asked, "Do you ever think about what we could have been if I hadn't messed everything up?" I smiled, a real smile, not bitter or angry, just honest. Sometimes, I admitted. But then I remember who I had to become to survive what you put me through. And I realized that I liked this version of me so much better than the woman who was willing to accept betrayal in the name of love. I left him sitting there with his regrets and his apologies. I drove home to James, who was in our kitchen cooking dinner and humming off-key to a song on the radio. When I walked in, he looked up and smiled, that genuine smile that reaches all the way to his eyes. "Hey you," he said, walking over to kiss me. "How was your day?" "It was good," I told him. "Really good." He wrapped his arms around me and asked, "Want to talk about it?" And that's when I truly understood the difference. The difference between being wanted and being valued. Between being possessed and being loved. Between someone who says the right things and someone who does the right things. People sometimes ask me if I regret the years I spent with Daniel. If I wish I had left after the first affair. If I feel angry about the time I wasted. The truth is, I don't regret anything. Those years taught me lessons I couldn't have learned any other way. They showed me that I'm strong enough to survive betrayal. Smart enough to outmaneuver someone who underestimated me. Valuable enough to demand the respect I deserve. Daniel kept cheating because he thought I'd always be there. He thought I'd always forgive him. He thought I'd always choose our marriage over my own dignity. He was wrong about all of that. And when I finally walked away, I didn't just take half his fortune. I took back something so much more valuable. I took back my power, my self-respect, my future, my ability to look in the mirror and be proud of the woman staring back at me. The little girl who started with nothing but a laptop and a dream grew up to become a woman who refused to settle for anything less than everything she deserved. And that, more than any amount of money, more than any business success, more than any public vindication, that is the real happy ending. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. Living authentically. Living as your truest, strongest self. If you take anything away from my story, let it be this: know your worth. And then refuse to accept anything less than what you deserve. Don't wait for someone else to validate you. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait until you're absolutely certain. Life is too short to spend it with people who don't respect you. Life is too precious to waste on relationships that make you smaller instead of bigger. Life is too beautiful to accept betrayal in the name of love. You are worthy of real love. You are worthy of respect. You are worthy of someone who chooses you every single day, not just when it's convenient or when they think they might lose you. And if you're in a situation right now where you're being betrayed or disrespected or taken for granted, please hear me when I say this. You have the strength to walk away. You have the courage to start over. You have the value to demand better. It won't be easy. Some days will be harder than others. You'll question your decision. You'll wonder if you're making a mistake. You'll be tempted to go back to what's familiar, even if what's familiar is hurting you. But I promise you, on the other side of that pain is a life better than you can currently imagine. A life where you don't have to question if you're loved. A life where you don't have to check phones or hire investigators. A life where you can breathe freely and be completely, authentically yourself. That's the life I'm living now. And that's the life I want for anyone who has ever felt the way I felt during those years with Daniel. So if my story has inspired you in any way, if it's given you strength or hope or the courage to make a change in your own life, then everything I went through was worth it. Know your worth. Then add interest. You deserve nothing less than everything. Thank you for listening to my story. End.